everyone to the third episode of King Pawn Endgame. In our previous two episodes, we were discussing and learning about the various concepts like shouldering, zugzwang, the magic square, the rule of square, and opposition. In today's episode, what we are going to do is we'll solve some puzzles. You have to take your time, think, pause the video after every puzzle we show, comment down your moves there or write it down on the paper however you feel comfortable, and then after that we'll be explaining the concept once again. This is kind of a revision episode. Yes, Menan?
Yeah, so what you guys can do is you can pause before every question and then you try to solve it and then check the answers. And you can, at the end of the day, you can score yourself how many you get correct, and then you can write in the comments कि आपको कितने puzzles आपने सही solve किए.
Also, if in case कोई concept ऐसा है जो आपको नहीं समझ में आया, you would want us to elaborate it more, we are happy to help. Yeah, so let's get started.
Yeah, so this is the first puzzle and it is white to move, and you have to find the only move that wins for white.
So take
So
your time, pause the video whenever you're ready, unpause, and you can see the answer.
yeah, so in
Well,
this puzzle, if you came up with the move king d3, then you are wrong because black plays king d5, and we have learned about the concept of opposition in the last two videos. हमने बार बार एक ही concept में सबसे ज़्यादा stress किया है, that is opposition. So over here black gets the opposition and black is able to hold a draw. So over here the correct move is king to c3, and if you found this move then you are correct because now you get the opposition, and now if black goes king d5, you go king d3, and this is the same position but with black to move, so you are winning. And now if black goes king e5, now you go king c4 and so on, and ultimately you can promote your pawn. For example, let me just quickly show it to you. Yeah, and now this is just winning for white. Now the pawn just marches forward. So should we move to the next one?
sure.
Yeah, this one, and it is black to move. You are black and you have to find the only move that saves the game for black. Over.
The correct move in the position is to go king b8. If you found a move king b8, then you're able to draw the position. You are able to hold it. Anything other than king b8, let's say king c7, king b7, then white is able to give you the opposition. अगर आप king c7 जाते हो वो king c5 जाएगा. आप king b7 जाते हो वो king b5 जाएगा, right? So white will be the one who will be able to give you the opposition. But if you found the move king b8, then he cannot give you the opposition, or you can hold the position for a very long time.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's a draw.
after king b8, now if he comes, let's say king c5, now you have king c7
You
and you
go.
take the opposition.
Correct.
So moving on.
Let's go to the next one.
Now
Yeah.
over here, it is white to move. You are white and you can see that, you know what, that black currently has the opposition. So it may seem that this game is going towards a draw, but over here, the minor problem is, I mean, the minor thing that is in your advantage is that this pawn is on b2 and not on b3. So you have one move which you can actually waste and lose a tempo. And you know, you can say, okay, what? I play the move b3. Now the position of the kings is same. You know, they are still opposite to each other, and I have transferred the move to you. So now over here, whatever black plays, black is just losing. For example, if he goes king c5, again, you know what, over here you play the move king a5, getting the diagonal opposition, and now you just win. For example, king b7, king b5, and we've seen this many times. You always go to the other
Yeah.
side and then you
एक
just
चीज यहाँ
promote.
पर you remember, whenever the opponent's king sees your pawn, at that time you have to play your king in front of him. अगर king कहीं भी है, not in the pawn's file, then you can move the pawn or you can move the king up.
Yeah,
That
and
is a
one more
simple trick
concept
that
over
you
here.
can remember.
Guys, remember this is the knight's pawn. So over here, you can actually play b5 and give black the opposition because your king is on the 6th rank. Again, you know, the magical 6th rank. And over here, you don't go king c6, but you go king a6 because this is winning for you, and the pawn goes to the 7th rank without giving a check. So you're winning. So यहाँ पे we understood that, you know what, that first of all, this is the knight's pawn and the magical 6th rank. And secondly, over here in the starting, even though black has the opposition, but you have an extra move, so you're winning this game.
Tempo. Yeah. Use the tempo, you transfer the move to your opponent and you win the game.
Yeah. So moving on, in this position again, see guys, the king is on the sixth rank. It is white to move. We did cover this concept in the last puzzle, so I'm hopeful that you will solve this. And over to you, if you can just explain that why white is winning over here despite black having the opposition.
Yeah, despite black is having the opposition, our king is on the sixth rank and it's a knight pawn. So you go with the king to h6. He goes king h8. Aap push karo pawn, and now you just start pushing the pawn because he has no extra rank after 8. There's no ninth rank unfortunately on the chessboard. तो उसको छोड़ना पड़ेगा वो file once he comes to f7. It's just easy. You go with the king pawn to g8, make a queen. So remember the king on the sixth rank and the knight's pawn.
Yeah, and it's
दोनों
not
चीज
it's
important.
not just the knight's pawn, but guys, you can remember that this pawn can be on any file, but as long as your king is on the sixth rank and it's in front of the pawn, you will always promote to a queen. And
Yeah,
the part is that
it comes
that
without a check.
yeah, and this pawn will always reach the seventh rank without giving a check, and you will always be winning. So that is the beauty of the sixth rank, and that is why we kept this puzzle. Taki, we want you to memorize this thing that when your king is on the sixth rank, that आपका pawn हमेशा queen बनेगा. There is no reason to worry. Now moving on to the next one. Now this is again a distant opposition puzzle. It is white to move, and there is only one move that saves the game for white. Now the only move over here, if you can just explain what is the only move that saves for white.
Again, the only move saves is to go with the king to c2. And अभी आप क्या कर रहे हो कि यू आर मेकिंग इवन नंबर स्क्वायर्स इन बिटवीन. अगर वो ऊपर आता है, वो d5 आता है, वो c5 आता है, तो इवन नंबर ऑफ स्क्वायर्स रहेंगे. एंड देन ऑपोजिशन कैन ओनली हैपन ऑन द ऑड नंबर स्क्वायर्स. वो c5 आएगा, हम d, वो c5 आएगा, हम c3 जाएंगे, वो d5 आएगा, हम d3 जाएंगे. सो वी आर देन एबल टू गिव अ ऑपोजिशन. अगर हम किंग को ऊपर लेकर जाते हैं, लेट्स से ऑन द थर्ड रैंक, देन we are giving the even numbers and he can come up making it odd, giving us the opposition there. Correct?
Yeah, so
So,
guys, this is how the game ends in a draw. But over here, it is important to understand that had you gone any other move, for example, king c3 loses to king c5 because black gets the opposition. And if you go king c1, now over here again, black plays the move king d5. And remember, there are three rows in between, so black has a distant opposition because अभी आपको king कहीं तो चलना पड़ेगा. If you go d1, he plays the move king c4, and now if you play any move, let's say king c1, c2, or d2, he gets the opposition. If you go king d2, then he plays the move king b3, he takes the other side. And if you play a move like king c2 over here, now this pawn over here
shares the
वो
board.
पीछे है, he has one move, he can waste the move, and now it's opposition and it is your move, so you lose the game. So that is why over here the only move that saves for white is c2. And if you found king c2, then you can actually give yourselves a pat on the back because this is actually you are actually understanding king pawn endgames, how to draw. So moving on to the next one. Now over here we can see that white has double pawns, and there is only one move that wins here for white. Because guys, if you play the move king f7, you know what? This actually ends in a stalemate because the black king has no squares. And if you play the move g6, check, again you be too greedy, you play over here. Now there are no moves with the pawn. The king has to go somewhere back. Black takes this pawn and black holds. So over here, the only winning move over here, and if you found it, kudos to you, is that you make this pawn to a queen, you sacrifice the pawn, and now you
Sacrifice it
come king
there.
g6. And guys, once again, back to the old concept,
Same position.
sixth rank, your king is in the sixth rank, and you know what, you are going to win this game. Over here he can go king over here, and you know what, over here don't even have to go king h6, but you can actually go king f7
King
because
f7.
this is also winning for you. So now in all these positions we actually saw king pawn versus king. Now we go to the part where both sides have pawns because you often don't get dream positions. Black के पास भी pawns होंगे. So if you can just explain this, I know first you try to solve it, and then if you can just go ahead and
Yeah.
explain what is the only winning move for white over here.
Yeah. So as we have seen, यहाँ पर you don't go king b5, you go king a5. अभी अगर king b5 जा रहा है, king b7 आ रहा है. करेक्ट. और वो ब्लैक वैसे ही खेलता रहेगा पूरा टाइम तुम्हारे साथ. You go king a5. He plays king b7. He plays If he plays now to king b7, you go king b5, right? Try to push him on that side or on the other side of the board, and slowly you take the control of protecting your pawn and attacking his pawn. अभी वो क्या करेगा? King c7 जाएगा.
Yeah, of
We
course
go
he
king
can't go
a6.
here because if he goes here, you just enter and take this pawn.
Directly loses the
So
pawn.
the most logical
And,
move, and if he goes king c8, of course you just go king c6 and this pawn loses. So the most logical move is king c7.
and now we go king
Yeah,
a6.
you go to the
So
other
see, he
side and you
cannot
take
come
the
to
opposition.
c6. Your pawn is protecting it. b6, your king is protecting. He has to go to the other side. He goes king d7. King c8 is also fine. He goes king d7. हम लोग king b6 आएंगे. d7 is also fine.
Yeah, and
b6
now
पे
you
खेल
have,
सकते हैं वहां पर.
yeah, I mean you can just, the point is that you are anyways going to win this pawn. Now no matter where he goes, let's say he goes king d8, then you just come king c6. If he comes king e7, you take the opposition, you take the pawn, and you, since this is the sixth rank, you are winning. So now we'll move to the next puzzle. Over here, guys, we've thought about this zugzwang concept. So the aim is to take this pawn, and black's aim is to take this pawn. And you know what, you can actually attack this pawn in two ways. One is king b5 and the other is king b6. अगर आपने सोचा that king b5 is winning, then you are absolutely wrong, because now we enter this zugzwang position after black plays king d4 and it is your move. So अभी आपको यहाँ से हटना पड़ेगा. Let's say you play king a4 and you just lose this pawn. So over here what you do is, instead of going
Go
directly
king
king b5,
b6.
you first play the move king b6, and now you see black has to find a move, and the only logical move over here is that he goes king d4, and now you play king b5, the same position but with black to move. So the black king has to move away, you win this pawn, and this pawn promotes to a queen.
ऑल्सो मिडल एक इजी वे भी है ना इसको याद करने का. जब तक वो हमारे पॉन को अटैक नहीं कर रहा है, तब तक हम उसको डिफेंड नहीं कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पर हमको किंग b5 जाकर हमारे सीक्रेट पॉन को प्रोटेक्ट करने की नीड नहीं है, राइट?
Right, that is actually a very
तो
nice way to remember
जब
this.
yeah, till the time he is not attacking a pawn, you don't defend it. You just attack his pawn. When he comes to attack you, now is the need to protect your pawn, so you go king b5. In
Absolutely.
that way, easy to remember. zugzwang अगर नहीं भी याद आता है, you are under time pressure. Generally end games time pressure में ही आते हैं, तो ये एक बहुत बेसिक चीज याद कर सकते हो, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, guys, don't defend the pawn until he's attacking it. So यहाँ पे you have two moves. One move is king b6 where you are just attacking the black's pawn. The other move is king b5 where you are not only attacking the black pawn but also defending your pawn. But अभी black का king is not attacking your pawn, तो अभी हम defend नहीं करेंगे. अभी हम सिर्फ attack करेंगे king b6, and now no matter what black plays, he only has like a couple of moves. You know, the most logical move is king d4 because otherwise his pawn falls. If he plays a move like king d3 or something, you just take this pawn. So black will play king d4, and now black is attacking his pawn and defending his own
हाँ,
pawn. So अभी हम
yeah.
attack तो कर ही रहे थे, but हम defend नहीं कर रहे थे. So now we play the king here. Now we defend the pawn, and now black cannot defend this pawn. That is the small problem over here, and that is why we say that this position is a zugzwang. जिसकी move है वो हार जाएगा. So now we'll
You
move to the
force your
next
opponent
one.
to do a worse move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go
Now
to the next one.
now over here it is white to move. हमारा king बहुत दूर है. Like see, the action is happening in the center, but our king is very far off. So you know what, you have to calculate here, that is black winning. You know, like black is going to take this pawn and he's going to roll his pawn forward. So you have to calculate whether you are able to save this position as white, or black is going to take this pawn and promote it to a queen. Yeah, so over to you.
Yeah. So here, even though the white king looks a little far from the action, but the king is right in time to capture the pawn. यहाँ पर you start with king f7. Diagonally, you will be always be able to reach faster. So if you want to go somewhere, use the diagonal path. Go king f7. क्या करेगा वो? क्या कर
Maybe
पाएगा? King d4, right? And you now go and attack his pawn. If he captures yours, you can capture his pawn on d5 square. Right? So you're right in time to capture his pawn or to attack his pawn. जब वो, yeah, that's a draw.
yeah. So moving on. Now in this position, guys, it is your move. You have to tell that whether you're going to win this game or you cannot win this game. Remember, guys, this is a rook pawn, and we have learned that rook
And you're
pawns.
playing as white.
Yeah, you are playing as white. It is white to move. So आपके पास एक rook pawn है. Your king is very close to taking this pawn on h7. Do you think you can win this game as white? Because हमने क्या सीखा था? There are two major disadvantages of the rook pawn. First thing is that even if your king is on the sixth rank and if you have a rook pawn, if the opponent's king is on h8, he's going to save this game because there is no extra file. No, there's nothing beyond h. So a and h file का यही सबसे बड़ा disadvantage है. And the second drawback, which you will learn via this puzzle, is that even though you are going to win this pawn, but black king is actually in time to come on the bishop's file,
Come and
that is on these two squares, and that is why, guys, you can never win this particular position. Because let's say you go king g7, you want to say I take this pawn and I push my pawn and make a queen, but now black comes here,
become king.
and now after you take this pawn, the problem is that black is in time to play the move king f7, and now black does not leave these two squares, and there is just no way how this edge pawn can promote, because you can push your pawn or you can play king to h8, it doesn't matter. Black king
He'll
khali
keep on opposing.
करेगा, and now this becomes a stalemate. Like, of course,
वो
black
आपके
plays king
किंग को
f8.
केज में डाल देता है एंड या
So
most important are those bishops to square f7 and f8. If you can control those squares with your king and not allow your opponent's king to come there, then your rook pawn can easily queen. But if not, and he comes over there, then he's going to trap your king game. You will have no squares to go anywhere. So,
yeah, so that is the
yeah.
major drawback of the rook's pawn, that even if the black king is able to come to these two squares, that is covering these two squares, not letting your king come here, then the game is always a draw. So moving on, now we also learned about the pawn race. So over here it is white to move. And what do you think about this position? Do you just do a pawn race, or there is a way how white can actually win this position? So if आपने बोला that you play h4, then you are wrong, because over here
But it's a draw. दोनों
this is a draw, because black promotes a queen and you are also in time, and this is going to be a draw. But now we come to the concept जो हमने सबसे पहले सीखा था, the magic square or
the
the big
rule of
square.
square.
The rule of squares. अभी black का जो pawn है, it is 4 squares away from being promoted to a queen. अगर आपने यहाँ पे square draw किया होता, तो आपको याद आता that you know what, it is my move and my king is actually
I
in
can
time,
enter
and you
the
know what,
square.
our king is now inside the square, and his king can never be able to reach the square in time. So over here after this move, white is actually just winning, because अगर आप वो pawn push करता है, you play the king over here, and you know what, this is the only problem, that he is not able to.
Come. Yeah. Also, if you see, you draw a square for white. Let's say वो diagonal से बना लो एक BT square h2 pawn के लिए. Square just in one move. अगर हम जा रहे हैं f4, king f4 और वो आ रहा है king b7, so he is also in the BT square now. But the difference is that you can now jump in with two squares. So he will be one move shorter.
Yeah, that's a great point over here. That because our pawn was in the base square and we can move twice, so the black king is never in time to enter the square.
Now, if if king supports the pawn to protect, so we are ahead of him. So our pawn will just run and will make the queen faster. अगर वो pawn push करता है, so our king is stopping his pawn. His king will never be able to do that.
Yeah,
तो
so
दोनों
whenever
ways
he
से
pushes his pawn, we get our king closer to the pawn, and अगर वो अपना king चलता है, we already know that he's outside the square, so we are anyways going to promote.
true.
So yeah, moving ahead now, guys, this is a very simple puzzle. If you have scored, if you have got all the previous ones correct, there is no chance of not getting this, because over here your king is in the corner. You have two pawns, it is your move, and if you play some move like h6 and something, then of course you're not going to win this game. But over here you have two connected pass pawns, so over here you play the move g4, and now the point is that the black
Protect
king
your
cannot take
pawn
this.
which is going to go
Yeah,
forward.
you protect
अभी
this
क्या
pawn,
है?
that black is attacking this pawn, so you play the move g4, you protect this pawn, and now the black king can never take this pawn, because then he's always behind you. So now the thing is that the black king cannot take your pawn, the black king has to go here, and slowly and steadily you get your king in the action, and with the support of the king, both the pawns we can promote, or you can just promote the pawn and win the game. So this is what, this was a very easy one. And we actually put this one taki if you have not got any of the previous ones right, you at least get this one correct.
Also, very basic if you are really beginner or you get confused कि मैं क्या खेलूं नहीं पता है तो पता है सिंपल वे ऑफ रिमेम्बरिंग और मेकिंग मूव्स इन चेस इज डिफेंड अगर आपको नहीं अटैक आ रहा है करने के लिए क्या हो रहा है इस पोजीशन में योर एच 5 पॉन इज इन डेंजर राइट इफ यू गो टू एच 6 यूर एनीवेज गोइंग टू लूज इट एच 5 पर भी प्रॉब्लम है बिकॉज इट इज अंडर अटैक सो प्रोटेक्टेड डिफेंड राइट नाउ व्हाट इज अंडर अटैक ठीक है सिंपल अगर वो भी कैप्चर करता है तो आपको पता है आप एच 6 जाओगे किंग किंग विल ट्राई टू कैच यू बट ही वोंट बी एबल टू विल बी ऑलवेज वन मूव शॉर्टर. And if your opponent is really smart enough, not capturing any of your pawn, going f6, h6, तो भी कोई भी pawn push करने में danger है, right? वो हमको capture ही कर देगा. So now you get your king in.
Yeah. Going to the next one.
Yeah.
Now this is the concept of outside pass pawn, and this is actually a slightly tough one. So if you get this puzzle, then you know what, you're actually improving fast and you're actually a pretty strong player. And over here it is white to move. So do try this puzzle, do pause it and try to solve, and then now we'll show you the answer. You have two pawns over here. Your pawn on h5 is controlling both these pawns. Black will never play a move like g5 because you just on pass and you win the pawn, and then you are very close to queening, and you also have a pass pawn here. So in this position you actually play the move c5 check, and it may seem that you've given up this pawn and black can take this pawn, bc5 check, and now you just play the move here. And this is now black is actually in a situation of zugzwang, because if he cannot move the king anywhere, because if he moves the king he loses this pawn. And यहाँ पे जैसे हमने बताया that your pawn on h5 is so strong, it's controlling both the pawns. For example, if he plays a move like g5, you just on pass, and if he comes here, you don't even play anything, you actually just push your pawn, and the king cannot stop both the pawns. So over here,
floating pawns.
Over here, let's
this
say
is the
with
concept
g5.
of yeah.
Yeah, this is the concept of floating pawns. That if he plays over here, you play this. He thinks he's in time to save this pawn, and now you start pushing this pawn, and the king cannot stop both the pawns. So this is apparently called floating pawns. Ma'am knows the terminologies. And यहाँ पे if he plays anything else, for example, he doesn't play g5, अगर वो king पीछे खेलता है, then you just take this pawn, and जैसे we have learned over here, this king pass pawn, या तो हमारा pass pawn queen बनेगा, or you distract the king from taking this pass pawn, and your king is in time to capture both these pawns and promote. So over here, if black plays the move, let's say king d8, or let's say he doesn't go king d8 because king d8 is going further from the pawn. Let's say he plays the move king to, I know, like let's say he plays the move king b7.
King b,
Now you know what, you play the
so
move
you just go
b6.
b6.
Now he has to go king b8. Now you play king c6. He takes the opposition. You give the check. He goes here. And over here, you know what? You can actually play the move king b6 because of this structure.
It's
now,
not a stalemate.
His
He
king
has
cannot
extra
move.
pawns there.
It's not a stalemate. The pawn has to move forward. It doesn't matter he goes one step or two steps. You take. Now, while this pawn pushes, you promote this to a queen. And this is actually a beautiful checkmate.
In style. Yeah.
So yeah, the main concept over here, what you had to find is that you have to create a pass pawn. So you play c5 check. Black has to take it. I mean, black is surely to take it. And now you play king c4. And black is actually in zugzwang over here. Either he moves the king and loses this pawn, or he plays over here and we have the concept of floating pawns. So this was actually kind of a pretty, like a kind of a tough puzzle. And if you solve this, then you know what? You are actually improving really fast. And now we will move to the final puzzle for the day. And this actually is going to set the theme for our next part of endgame, that is king queen versus king pawn. And over here it is white to move, and you must be thinking, you know what, we promote to a queen, he promotes to a queen, and we win. For example, over here, since your king is way outside the magic square, so you just have to push the pawn. Black pushes the pawn, you push, he pushes, and over here you thought that, you know what, I make a queen. If black makes a queen, I give this check and I win. So, but over here, the reason we gave this, we set this position is because over here, black actually does not push this pawn. Instead, he plays the move king d2. And this position, you think, you know what, I have a queen and he has a pawn. Queen is 9 points. pawn is only a single point. So of course white is winning, but you are absolutely wrong, because in this position black is actually holding it, and this game is actually a draw. And to know more about this position, we will actually show you this in the next episode, and we actually set this position to set the theme for the next episode. And that's it what
Yeah.
we have for king pawn and games. And
This is a
any
well-known theoretical position. Yeah, but yeah, you can just say a little bit about what we are going to cover in the next one. So the bishops and rooks pawn on the seventh rank are drawn. This is something that we are going to discuss in our next video, and it is a well-known theoretical position.
Yeah, so thank you everyone guys for watching this, and do let us know in the comments how many
What was
puzzles you
your
got
score?
correct, because we are eager to know कि आपको कितने सही हुए. And if you have any doubts or if you need help in any of the concepts, you can also write in the comments, and we'll probably make another video to clear all your doubts.
Yeah. And also, if you guys have any other suggestions for us, कि what we have missed in King's Pawn, या तुम्हारे game में कुछ आया होगा ऐसे that we have not covered, so you can let us know that as well, and we'll try to make a video on that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
thank you.